Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Create the Ripple podcast. I'm your host, Candace Smiley. Here we trust the ningle and we tell the truth. This is a podcast. We are looking to have conversations that matter, conversations that take courage to engage in, where we cut through the noise that exists online to bring you incredible content, amazing speakers, and stories to inspire you to live your best, listen to yourself, and tell the truth of who you are and who you just might become. Hey, I wanted to talk to you a minute today about the gig economy. What is the gig economy? It's basically the side hustle, side income economy that's become so popular today and age. I hope you're still listening to this ad because it's really important for me. I was in the network marketing industry for over 13 years and I had an incredible experience. I learned a ton of things, but there were many things about the industry of network marketing that I really didn't love. One of which was the overinflated products. Number two was the fact that I had to build a team or balance those things that we would call legs, the whole pyramid thing. I really was done with that. About a year ago, I was introduced to a social retail company. Social retail simply means that we are using our social media platforms, which are free, by the way, to promote products and services that we love. The affiliate marketing is booming. Not even going to lie. It's an incredible place to be in. And I am speaking to the woman who's in her 30s or maybe in her 40s, and she'd like to create that extra income. She'd like to create income on her own time. And she'd like to do it in a company that isn't all about the hype, that has some real products that she can get behind, and would work with somebody who wants to teach her how to do that. If that's you, then I would really love it if you would reach out to me. Feel free to comment below or leave me an email. Scan the code. I'm sure there's a code somewhere if you're watching on my YouTube channel, but I would love to get in touch with you. And this is why. The company that I'm with, modere.com or modere.ca, depending on where you're at, check out shiftingretail.com. So that's shiftingretail.com. I want you specifically to go check out the values of this company and what their mission is. That was really important for me. I got flown down to the corporate offices and I had a chance to meet with the corporate crew and meet with the visionaries that are really driving the company forward. And what I discovered is this. The first thing they said to me was, Candace, when people come here from a network marketing company, they start making money. Now, disclaimer, this is work. This is going to take work. This is going to take energy, effort, time, and skill. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. Those don't exist, at least not ones that I would like to put my name behind. However, this company pays us 10 to 36% on commissions of whatever we've moved within our business. And we get paid daily. We get paid up to twice daily. Biggest, coolest thing about this, if I move product, I get paid on the product, period. No balancing legs, no having to do any of that stuff. If product moves because of a referral that I did, whether it was through my social media, through a swipe up influencer, or a person-to-person conversation, doesn't matter. I'm going to get paid on it. And for me, being paid on the work and the effort that I do is important. So if this is something that's intriguing to you, I invite you to head over to shiftingretail.com or head over to Smiley, that's CSMILEY.shiftingretail.com, and you'll be able to join my team directly. If you've got some more questions, please comment below or find a way to contact me and get in touch, because I would love to share with you how we're building this and how affiliate marketing is the place for you to be. And trust me, once I show you how to do it with this company, I will show you the many companies, brick and mortar stores, you name it, sole proprietors, entrepreneurs who have an affiliate-based idea. And once you can do it with one company, you can do it with any of them. So I'm excited to teach you that. In fact, so excited, we're going to give you 120 days of done-for-you posts or text that will help you so that you don't have to worry about what to post or when to post or how to post it. We're going to give all of that to you. You just got to show up with drive, determination, and some cash flow to get you started. $39.99 gets you your affiliate link and code and gets ready to start. Maybe you want to try some product too. It's awesome. But up to 2 customer orders actually qualifies you for commission. So you don't even have to place an order, provided you've got customer orders that are moving in your business. Brand new customer orders qualify you for commissions every month. Super cool. Definitely an opportunity for somebody who wants to come in, put some effort in, and work with integrity, work with honesty, but really begin to use the social media time that right now is really just wasted time and turn that into cash flow. Awesome. Hope you have a wonderful day and keep enjoying our show. All right. Well, welcome back to another episode of our Create the Ripple podcast. Today, my guest is a woman by the name of Tamra, and I'm super excited that we get to have her as a guest on the show today. I had a chance to do a little research into her, and she has got an incredible podcast and story of her own. And so it's always fun, of course, Tamra, when you get to come and share space with people that sort of, are used to turning on the camera, forgetting it's there, and having a great conversation. So before we get too far into it, I want to have you share who you are and what you're about with my listeners, and then we'll dive into some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And I totally agree. There's like a whole nother realm of conversation when it's with a fellow podcaster. So I honor what you do. I know it goes into it. And simultaneous, I feel like we bring just a different pizzazz when we're having conversation. And so I hope people feel that and sense that and can grab hold of it today. I love energy. I love joy. I come from a place of hardship though, right? Don't we all? And I think that while you might have grown up in a really lovely home, and I really believe that I did, there was also some trials and tribulations that were happening in secret for a long time and led me into kind of a whirlwind of success, perfectionism, achievement-driven, rat race living, American dream experiences. I had just one of those moments of tombstone recognition associated to my entrepreneurial journey, and I'm so grateful that I did. I call it my quarter life crisis, so we can get into all the grimy details if you want. But 6 years now, I have been on the other side of that story in a place of freedom and joy and really activating purpose alongside other people who want to break free from societal norms and live in a space of light and love and do so in all the things as a mom, as a wife, as an entrepreneur, and do it well, right? And so it's not about balance, it's about alignment. And that's really my story in a nutshell.
Oh, and that's what made me so excited. It's like when I got onto your show, there's like the energy like leapt off of the page, which I love because I'm all about, as my dad says, right, E equals MC squared. It's like, it's the deal, right? Everything is energy. And I've always loved that because like you, I grew up very safe, very sheltered, had a wonderful upbringing. Now that did that prepare me for everything I ran into? Probably not.
Yeah.
So I do want to dive right into that quarter life crisis because I couldn't remember saying the exact same thing. I didn't have a midlife crisis. Like I'm coasting up to midlife and I'm like, it's good.
Yeah, I got
the crisis out of the way early. So let's talk about that like right here, right now, and let's get into it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I had this revelation that occurred in the midst of running two different businesses, one which was a brick and mortar store and an online boutique in my local community, born and raised in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And the other was a global company that was being launched in the American, Canadian, and UK market that was brought to me almost on a silver platter, honestly, in that little boutique of a store from an Australian man who wanted to take this nursing bra, which is so interesting that it was a man who created the nursing bra. That's the #1 nursing bra in Australia and is on the rising charts here in the States. And I was working 60 or 70 hours a week, not to mention the extra hours that were going in as my dollar dings were happening on my phone. I had a under 1-year-old, so like a 9-ish month old, and a nearly 2-year-old. My kids are 11 months apart, so or 6. Well, I say 11. They're not 11. They're right over 11. 11 is the Irish twins and what people assume that they are. They're 16 months apart. Mm-hmm. But I had this recognition as I pulled into my driveway one day. I had just done nursing my daughter, so I wasn't with her all day long. She was coming to work with me. So imagine all of that in the midst of also having a nursing baby. And it was about a week after I had done nursing her, and I pulled in, and I was so anticipating her running to me. I'd been gone for almost 13 hours that day. And instead, pulling into the white picket fence, the two nice cars, my handsome hot hubby, standing outside talking to the neighbors, my waddling baby, my one on the trike, thinking, oh man, like she's got it all, right? And I felt completely void. And when she turned around and walked back towards data instead of me, It was one of those lightning bolt moments of your life, like, hey, wake up. And I've been heard it say this way, where like God will throw pebbles at you and then he'll throw rocks at you. And this was my boulder, right? Or like, now or never. And I just
Yep.
felt like I was underneath that rock, but at the same time, instead of like not being able to breathe, I just suppressed it even further. And I walked inside the house and I just thought, what can I be good at? What is the end of this all going to look like? Meanwhile, dollar signs dinging on my phone. And I realized that my tombstone ultimately was what the revelation was, is not going to read entrepreneur. And so, why is it that I'm putting all of this time and energy into something when ultimately all I wanted to be, or so I thought I wanted to be from when I was a little girl, was a mom and a wife, and I felt no fulfillment in those roles? And so it was kind of this evolution of unfolding over the next couple of weeks of, where was I spending my time? Where was my investment of emotion going? Why was it not in the people that I cared the most about? But I couldn't wrap my head around the dissatisfaction that I was feeling in my life at the time. And every outlet that you could possibly imagine, I had shopping addiction. I wouldn't say that I was an alcoholic by any means, but I was drinking alcohol daily, and more so to the point of like, what time is 5 o'clock somewhere? Can I use it a different area code? Maybe it will be okay. And even not doing it, but thinking about it. Emotional relationships, physical relationships. I was outside of my body half of the time and outside of my mind for sure. And so it came a moment of, what are you going to do? You can live that life if you want. And I think a lot of us want to live that supersonic, speedy life that you see happening on the big screens. And I probably could have gone towards that stardom realm when it came to success financially, and it came to success from the starlet of, a young entrepreneur who hits, top 30 under 30, right? Top 40 under 40. I was going to be on all of those lists, and I had to exchange. Is it the tombstone, or is it the life of the body, of the human flesh, of the fame and the fortune? And I chose the former. And it was a hard hit. Quarter life crisis, going from that being your identity to being a stay-at-home mom and wife, was really hard for me because it was so slow. I felt like a snail pace every single day. My kids drove me nutty. My husband drove me nuttier, and I couldn't feel present in my space. And so it was in just a surrender. I call it my white flag moment, where I had to make that choice. And I made the choice because of a situation. I was either going to be divorced and without my children, or with a money-making machine. And I didn't want that as my identity. And I don't know if I chose, sometimes I think, did I choose it out of shame of what would everybody think if I lost my family? Or what would everybody think if I lost my fortune? And I still don't know, honestly, but I know at the end of the day, what I prayed for when I was little was the prayer that I wanted answered. And I knew that there was only one way to that road. And so I'm really grateful that I have stood in that space and I gave everything up, including that uncomfort, that discomfort, that unknowing, the fear associated to it. And I learned to live life in the pace of a mom and a wife. And it was freeing 3 years later when I was able to step into entrepreneurship again.
3 years later. Yes.
Done, done, done. Right. So that's the juicy part.
Yeah, no kidding. That's incredible. And to be honest with you, I'm currently, there's a new baby in the house. He's 3 months old, like just 3 months old. And I haven't really slowed down working though. And so I'm sort of in this space as you started talking. I was like, this is like on my mind and my heart right now of, it's hard for me to just be at home. Yet, if I think back to who I was at 17, which is when the first of the trauma started for me, that really changed the trajectory of my whole life. And in the last 2 years, since 2020, when the world shut down, I finally had some time to do some intense, healing, to find some therapists and just really slow down. And that was 14 weeks before I reemerged. And I had been limping, right? Like my dad would say, I was walking with a limp. And then came out and was like, okay, so now I'm reintroducing myself to myself. I'm reintroducing myself. And I've been noticing that the more I say no to that, so I can do more of these things that everybody would say, you're giving that up and you're saying no to this. And I'm like, I know, but I need to do the less but better, which is a very essentialist idea, which is a concept I've recently come in line with. And I'm like, oh, but that's right. Like, I mean, I already live in a tiny house part-time, and I'm always thinking, how can I shrink those things and effort and time when I'm spending that isn't what I feel called to do, right? That internal call. How do I step further away from the anxiety, which I know is just a key for me? I don't know what was the key for you, but for me, it's this sort of anxiety. I'm off and I'm sort of edgy and I'm like, okay, something's not quite right. So since you've made that shift, of course, now you're doing something, big and beautiful and amazing, this podcast. So tell me about how that shift went from, you saying, no to all those things, readjusting your priority, resetting that. What was that journey like for you? And then 3 years later, you've got some peace around the whole thing. And I get what you mean by saying that, like this real deep abiding, I am doing what I'm, called to be doing. What does that look like, right? If somebody is sitting there thinking, okay, I need that, what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I want to just take testimony and time to the therapy associated to that, because that was a huge component of that evolution, of that release, and also the discovery of what was actually going on. We know that there's like root causes to everything, especially when it comes to health, right? You can kind of dissect what was the problem from the get-go. And I had a revelation about sexual trauma that happened to me, so much so that it was completely out of memory. It was out of sight. It was out of anything, but my body was carrying that stress and it was activating in so many different ways. And it had been since it happened when I was 3. And I carried a ton of shame to it because it was with a child that was much older than me and basically man's size, who had a mental handicap. And so it felt like I couldn't possibly say anything about this, and was it right, and is it okay? And it was an exploration and all the things that are associated to that, that then led into pornography, that then led into further sex trafficking, sex trauma, not trafficking. Let me tell you, that didn't happen, luckily and gratefully, but I know a lot of people who have been through that journey. And so unveiling that was when I finally came to being comfortable with slowing down, because I recognized when I looked at my children that there was a bigger calling, there was a bigger responsibility on my behalf of being present with them, and that anything could happen at any point. And that if I wasn't present and I didn't have that awareness factor to be a protector for them, my mom was fully at home and present for me, and yet that still happened. And so it's this recognition factor of, whoa, I need to stand up and I need to recognize that my life, as precious as it is, I couldn't even fathom the preciousness of my children, because there's a different love factor there. Also, in the understanding of therapy associated to that, I went through a biblical study and a biblical foundation schooling for several years, a leadership academy associated to that. So I wasn't not doing anything. I was fueling my mind with such positive, foundational, rooted information that was essentially reworking my neurolinguistic programming, if you've ever heard of that, or the plasticity of my brain. I had to reframe. I had to get back in and understand what boundaries were, understand who safe people were. I stopped listening to secular music. I stopped watching TV. I mean, I was drastic because my life depended on it, true the point of suicide ideation and full on depression. So it depended on it fully. And in that 3-year evolution, understanding my identity, I was just eventually open enough to, one, start brushing my teeth in the mirror again and looking at myself and being comfortable with looking at myself in the face. And then being able to look at other people in the face, specifically women who I had always rejected for the most part, because I was a guy's girl, right? All the trauma, now understand it. And I was like, wait a second, like I can't even look at a man because of everything that I have uncovered and acted out. And now all I want is the comfort of a female. I just want that. And so I started just spending time with women and going to coffee with them. And I was actually extracting vision for their life as my vision was still pretty void. And slowly but surely, those women would start affirming me in the fact that I needed to do more with this, that this was a calling, that this was amazing, that they had never been told these things, that they had never put those things together as an opportunity to live in freedom or live in a financial abundance or any of these pieces that to me were second nature because I had been an entrepreneur for a decade prior to.
Are you looking for a simple, easy weight management solution? I thought you might be. I know I was. I also wasn't interested in something with a ton of gimmick without any science behind it, which I know a ton of companies have. The company I'm about to share with you actually has 12 of their own clinical studies. And for me, with my science-based background, I needed to know that. I also needed to know the product worked. And so I was introduced to the group that over had 125,000 members in it, all supporting amazing stories of weight management, weight loss, hair regrowth. Oh my gosh. Not surprising though, considering the product itself has won numerous awards in and out of the nutraceutical industry, which I think is pretty incredible. Pretty exciting as well is the fact that it's made with their patented technology, 7 international patents on the collagen in this product, made entirely from chicken sternum. Chicken sternum, why? Because it most closely mimics the collagen that our own bodies create. Now, I'm a 36-plus-year-old woman, and so making sure that I'm maintaining and taking care of and trying to reverse the clock so I can age gracefully is super important to me. Making sure I'm taking products that are safe, making sure I'm taking products that are approved, and making sure I'm taking products that I would be happy to share because there's integrity at the top. So this company is a values-based company, which I absolutely love. Not only do I love that, but I love the flavors. This is mango. Mango's my favorite. This is from the Modera company, which you've heard me talk about before. One simple spoonful a day. In the morning, I can add it to my coffee if I feel like it. I don't add the mango, I add the vanilla to my coffee. But I can add a simple spoonful to my day. It tastes awesome. It tastes amazing. And it's helping my body to maintain the figure that I've worked to get to. Why not? Now, if you're looking for some weight management, this is going to help curb appetite. It's going to help your body to function as best. And we know that when you do something like that and you make wiser choices, your body says thank you. This is part of an entire system called the Lean Body System. I will make sure to post information for that below, or you're welcome to scan the QR code, which I know is going to be somewhere in the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, head over to modere.ca. That's Modere, modere.ca, or modere.com, and use code 5579027. Again, 5579027 to save $10 on your next order, regardless of what you put in your cart. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of the listen.
To whom it may concern, my name is Hugh, and I'm currently a world traveler / entrepreneur. I've done real estate and stock investing, but honestly, they both suck compared to traveling. Not really. I have a passion for all that I've mentioned so far, especially being the host of Thoughts of a Random Citizen, where I get to talk about, well, everything. Sometimes it's just me giving you my knowledge and expertise. Other times I talk with unique guests from all around the world in all different walks of life. Travel, business, wealth, philosophy, science, it's all on Thoughts of a Random Citizen. I'd be honored if you'd come check out the podcast, where I'll do my best to entertain you all the way from my current residence over here in Barcelona.
And so I started a women's membership about 4 years ago. And it was phenomenal just to be in the energy of women. And I was laughing because I was like so rejected them when I was younger. And it's just been an evolution ever since then. I started the podcast at the same time. The podcast is called the Fit in Faith podcast. And it has evolved. Fit meaning founders, innovators, and trailblazers. But at the time, it was really just this understanding of being mentally fit, spiritually fit, physically fit, emotionally fit, all of the fits, right? And I still believe in that foundation so much, but I specifically know that a part of my calling is business and ministry and business, nonprofit work, all the things that people feel like this has some sort of era or element of mission, and yet the finances need to be associated to it. And so that's how it's evolved. And I'm just grateful for all of the little pieces, but I would say therapy, identity work, and relational intimacy and communication strategies with my spouse and children were the 4 things, the 4 pillars of that.
Just absolutely amazing. And I can't help but sort of understand now why, the 14 weeks for me in terms of, and then after I did the 14 weeks, I ended up discovering for the first time backcountry camping, which was almost like, meditation. It allowed me to really, do therapy during the week. And then I would disappear, right? Without my phone, without any sort of impact. outside sources. It was sort of just me and my footsteps and whoever was with me. And those people tend to enjoy silence as much as I did. And I found like I was reconnecting to myself because, after the trauma for me, it happened at 17. I had really embraced my masculine side because I needed to protect myself. And like you, I love how you put it. I had really embraced the siren side of the feminine, which was literally designed intentionally to distract the men so I could figure out if they were going to hurt me or not. And definitely turned off the women, right? So I didn't have a lot of great, strong feminine friendships, yet I craved them in one way or another. And since the healing, I've been finding myself really enjoying great friendships and having to learn how to, go to people and, the women in my life and say, I'm going to be really honest here. And I have a lot of fear about this. And it's really been a very healing process. Like you say, I'll, come forward and say something. But I know that when we as women tell the truth about our lives, especially to each other, it breaks down barriers, right? Like it literally rips things open and we're able to connect in a beautiful way. So I love the language with which you described all of this. It sort of brought everything home for me of what I've been observing and enjoying. Sort of from a bird's eye view, would be like, oh yeah, that's what happened. That's very cool. And how much more so, like you say, about the identity and then this moving forward now, because that's from the healing came this version of the podcast.
Yeah.
The podcast has begun to grow where now we're tackling some big issues as it relates to women, as it relates to sharing our voices. And like you, coming from this hugely entrepreneurial background and the boundaries and all of those things, it's almost like there's a marrying happening between the former very masculine and now this, grounded, beautiful, settled, like it's a really interesting space. So again, I love how you've put that all together. So you had this wake up moment. Now you're doing the podcast. What is the thing, I guess, that lights you up the most about what you're doing right now?
Well, my mission I've kind of formulated as the obliterating shame and activating purpose.
Oh my God, I
And
love that.
it has to come from, as much as I love the vision casting, as much as I love, and my multiple clients who don't know each other all said this almost within a year time frame where they feel like I pushed them off the cliff or I pushed them out of the plane. And I am an activator. I am like a let's go, stop going after the perfectionism, stop trying to figure it all out. We'll figure it out on the way down and it'll be fun. Are you ready to scream? Ready?
Yeah.
So I love that part because I love to see the aha moment when they're in the air free falling and I give them their parachute and they're like, oh, I get it. I'm fully free. I'm fully alive. It's like the best emotional breakthrough ever. But what I found, and I see this over and over again, is a lot of people come with that surface level business idea. That was me. I had 7 different businesses when I was 20. I thought everything was a bright idea and nothing was God's idea. Nothing was my idea. It was an idea of like filling a gap in the market, which all the business strategy tells you to do. Find your avatar, fill the gap, solve the problem. You're good to go. That's not true. You will find lack of flow. You will find lack of joy. You will not feel aligned to it every single day. You will not wake up on mission, on purpose, in your calling every single day because it's only an inkling of interest to you. And so the thing that really gets me going is the identity piece. It's the being. And so I teach from being, then brand, and then business. And so being is understanding who you are and how it's associated to the customer, the client, the partner, the mission, all of those things. And ultimately, it all comes with obliterating shame. Whether it's something like sexual trauma, like you and I have experienced, or it's shame associated to rejection, or it's shame associated to abandonment, or it's shame associated to isolation. Everyone has experienced shame and has this hidden understanding of guilt inside of their life or regret inside of their life. And when I'm able to uncover that, that's when the jump factor becomes possible. Because otherwise they jump and it's like a bungee cord and they're being extracted back to the shame. They're being extracted back to the shackle of the past. And that was me for so long. I felt like I was running and any door that I busted through, which could have been good, which could have been the right opportunity, see, I was so buckled to a secret society that existed from my past. And honestly, when I come to find out, was not just my story, it was a generational tie. And so there's a lot of heart work that happens before hard work of entrepreneurship. And that's where I love the sweet spot. That's where that blending, like you said, kind of comes together. And I feel like it's a sacred space that I've been able to uncover without anybody else telling me to do it. I just have discovered it, and it feels so good.
I love how you said that, because it's almost like you're casting off, and that is certainly something that I felt, because for the longest time, because of course I didn't start talking about the sexual trauma that had happened to me until I did the big healing work. I would talk about it, but I didn't actually call it out and call
Yeah.
it what it was,
Mm,
because for the longest time it was the guilt and the shame.
mm.
And once I started talking about it, then it was like, now I don't want to stop talking about it. And people are
Yeah.
usually like, jaw hits the floor. And I'm like, no, we have to talk about this, because for the longest time, the shame kept me silent. And how many more people can we, let them know that there's freedom on the other side?
Yeah.
And, from that, I recognize why, like you, I had my hands in a million different things. I was a serial entrepreneur, couldn't say, no to a beautiful, bright opportunity. People would say, I had 80 OS, right? Attention deficit. Oh, shiny, right? Like if there was a squirrel, that was me.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
And so since then, I've just, shut everything down. In fact, yesterday I reached out to a woman I haven't spoken to since 2020, right? That we've lost a whole year, right? And
It's
then
true.
some. And so reached back out, and she's like, why did you reach back out? And I shared with her that I said, I did some really deep healing in 2020, finally hit the pause button on life,
Yeah.
had the opportunity to do so, kicked everything out of my life. And I've been slowly adding people and things back in, making sure it's a good fit. And then going from there. And she was like, oh, and of course, beautiful woman. She's gone through her own interesting traumas, since then. And how much more so is it when you connect in that way? Like I find myself laughing, and I'm sure you're the same. I mean, everybody was, because your smile's gorgeous. But every time when you get to that place, you can't help but smile. And I can
So
remember when
true.
I was dealing with, because I had pushed all of that trauma down, like you, had some very depressive and suicidal thoughts and was really struggling with a lot of that. I remember saying to myself, you're going to get through this. It's going to be a lot of work, but when you do, you're going to tell the story, and then you're going to laugh. And when you laugh, it'll come right from your toes, right? You'll just be happy,
So
like
good.
really happy. And I really sense that coming from you. And so I'm going to highly encourage my listeners, go check out what Tamra's doing, because she's like literally on plan, on purpose. I love that. You've been using a lot of words that I love. And I don't know
Yeah.
about you, I bet you're like this. When you look at the meanings of words, like the etymology of words, right? Because I really believe, well, the world was created with sound, right? Spoken into
Yep.
existence.
Yep.
How much more so when we create our lives? We create our world with our word. And so it's always been a really big deal for me that first and foremost, I had to adjust what I was saying to myself in my own mind and my heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, the truth comes out, right? And that's really the premise here from Trust the Niggle, Tell the Truth, is that still small voice. That's the niggle.
Yeah.
Listen to it. It's not wrong. And then tell the truth to yourself, because then out of your mouth just comes, right? What is good, what
Yeah.
is pure,
Your
all of
heart
those things.
speaks. Yeah.
So as we wrap up, Tamra, what do you want to leave the listeners with? I'm like, floor is all yours.
Yeah. I think you hit two buzzwords that are kind of, they juxtapose in my life. They cause a little bit of friction. And it's that concept of joy and that concept of happy. And I, especially us all living in this like highlight reel of society. And mind you, 6 years ago, Instagram and social media was a thing, but not nearly a thing like it is today. And I definitely lived happy. Like my life appeared happy. I thought I was generally happy. And if I look at myself in pictures back then, I was always smiling, and I was always even told how beautiful my smile was, or that I lit up a room. And yet on the inside, that light didn't exist. And so it's been this beautiful evolution of when I finally surrendered, when I felt like the light had been blown out and there was nothing left. And the flicker of flame came in all of these little pieces that we're talking about, that now I feel like just this joy is so electric. It's so ember giving, like I am on fire. And anyone who gets close to me, they don't even have to talk to me. They could be coming in through my social media. They sense that unspeakable joy. And there is this massive difference when I see myself in a picture now versus I see myself in a picture then. Like I don't even see the same person. And so I just encourage you, if you feel like happiness is fleeting in your life, and it doesn't mean that I don't have trial, it doesn't mean that I don't cry, it doesn't mean that I don't have hard days or angry days or any of the emotions that a common human have. I am still human, I am still flesh. But there is just this deep, deep, unspeakable joy of freedom, knowing that everything is going to have fresh breath and that I can light it up, even if it doesn't. And I can put flame to it. We can get rid of it. We can start anew, or we can also create new life in the process. And so I would just encourage you to search joy and understand the difference between happiness and joy. And are you living a life that's creating unspeakable joy for others?
Powerful. Well, Tamra, thank you so much for holding space with me today. I am definitely lit up just by holding space with you here today.
It's been
The
amazing. It
energy is
really
coming
has.
through loud and clear. And thank you for the work that you were doing and the way you were showing up so honestly and authentically and with such transparency and speaking your truth as powerfully as you just did. So thank you.
I appreciate you fully, and you're doing it, girl. You're doing the dang thing. And in the
Right?
midst of motherhood, just remember that your light matters to that little light. And so there might be days where you feel like drawn into two callings, and there is a space for both and all, and both and, right? And we hear that all the time. But I remember when I was walking through this season of isolation and desolation, and I had those two little ones at home, so many times my son, who is now just 2, would wipe my eyes and say, "That's okay, mama, dada will fix it." Meanwhile, he didn't know the crazy friction that was happening between me and my husband. And so there are people, there are little angels, there are intuitive moments, there are, what do you call it? The niggle? I
Yeah,
love that. That will come into your knowing. Listen, just listen. Thanks for the space, Candace.
thank you. And to the rest of my listeners, you know the drill. When you like, share, comment, subscribe, it means the world to those of us who are showing up to share what is on our minds and on our hearts, our plan, our purpose. And for the rest of you, we'll catch you on the flip side.